My name is Hazel. Sitting in my living room, the silence is almost deafening. The weight that once sat heavy on my chest is finally starting to lift, but the memories of what led me here are still vivid as ever. It all started with a simple text message, a message that shattered the last remnants of my illusions about my parents. I had just deleted the last of the automatic payments to them, ending 8 long months of a cycle that was more habit and guilt than love. And then, 40 minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was Mom asking me to order them dinner. They noticed my absence in their financial life within 40 minutes, but they couldn't even spare a thought for my daughter's birthday. I've always been the one to keep the peace in my family. My parents, Arthur and Edith, were pillars in the small, conservative town we lived in. They held high-profile positions in the local church, and their word was law to many. But behind closed doors, they were cold and unforgiving. I was the black sheep of the family, the one who had a child out of wedlock at 22. My daughter, Lily, is the light of my life, but to my parents, she was a constant reminder of my shame. For 8 months, every Monday at 9 a.m., I would transfer $700 to my parents without fail. It was my desperate attempt to prove that I was still worthy of their love, that I could make up for my mistake. After working long night shifts as a nurse at the local hospital, I'd sit at my kitchen table with my laptop, surrounded by Lily's colorful drawings and the ever-present stack of bills. I'd type in those same numbers every week and watch as the confirmation message blinked on the screen. It was like a pulse I couldn't stop. My parents never thanked me. It was as if the money was my penance, and they were just collecting what was due. When Arthur's car broke down, I paid the mechanic without hesitation. When Edith's medical bills piled up, I took care of them before they even had to ask. It was my way of smoothing things over, of keeping the peace in a family that was falling apart at the seams. Lily, being only 5 years old, didn't understand the why behind it all. She thought her grandparents lived far away, not just a short drive across town. Every time she had a school event or a dance recital, she'd look at me with those big, innocent eyes and ask, "Mommy, can Grandma and Grandpa come?" I'd force a smile, swallow the truth, and say, "Maybe next time, sweetheart." She'd always nod, her trust in me unwavering. Kids always believe, don't they? I used to believe too, believe that my parents would eventually soften, that their pride would fade, and that we could be a real family again. I even dreamt of them sitting at my kitchen table, holding Lily's little hands and telling her stories about when I was a child. But every call with Edith was a harsh reminder of how far apart we were. Her voice was always clipped and precise, like I was a subordinate and not her daughter. "Don't forget to pay the insurance this month, Hazel. And your father's new glasses are due," she'd say, as if I was just a walking ATM. Then came Lily's 5th birthday. I went all out, determined to make it a day she'd never forget. I bought streamers and balloons, made lemonade in mason jars, and even found a second-hand bouncy castle. Lily twirled around in her pink princess dress, her hair braided just like Elsa from her favorite movie. Her cheeks were flushed with excitement as she asked, "Mommy, do you think they'll come this time?" I hesitated, forcing a smile through the knot in my throat. "Maybe, baby. Let's wait a little longer." But deep down, I knew. By 3 p.m. The candles on the cake had melted into soft puddles, and the lemonade was warm. The yard still smelled like sugar and sunscreen, but the laughter was fading. Lily kept looking towards the front gate, her fingers sticky from the frosting. Every few minutes, she'd ask the same question, her voice getting softer each time. "Mommy, do you think Nana and Grandpa are almost here?" I smiled, the way mothers do when their hearts are breaking. "Maybe, sweetheart. Maybe traffic's bad." But there was no traffic, no call, no excuse. Just silence. Even when the last guest left, I kept the party going as long as I could. Lily sat on the porch steps, a cupcake in her hand and her sparkly shoes dangling. She stared at the road, as if faith alone could bring her grandparents to our doorstep. As the sun started to dip low, she whispered, "Maybe they forgot." I knelt beside her, brushing the hair from her face. "Maybe," I said, trying to hide the tightness in my throat. "But we still had fun, didn't we?" She nodded, her eyes heavy with sleep. That night, after tucking her in, I sat on the couch scrolling through the pictures from the party. Each photo was a reminder of how hard I tried. And then I saw it, Mom's text. "Tell Lily happy birthday from us." That was it. No call, no visit, not even a period at the end. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours, and then, for some strange reason, I called. Dad answered. His voice was sharp and annoyed, like I'd interrupted something important. "What is it, Hazel?"
he barked.
"Why didn't you come today?" I asked, my voice trembling. There was a long pause, then a sigh heavy with contempt. "We didn't feel like it." "Dad," I said quietly, "Lily was waiting for you. She made a card for you." Another pause, and then the words that split my world in two. "Your child means nothing to us." For a moment, all I could hear was the low hum of the refrigerator and the blood pounding in my ears. My body went cold, and I couldn't breathe. "What did you just say?" I managed to ask, but he didn't repeat it. He just hung up. I sat there, the phone still pressed to my ear, staring at the blank wall. I didn't cry, I didn't shout. I was just frozen. Lily's drawings on the fridge fluttered in the draft, little stick figures and hearts in a world that only existed in her imagination. My hand started to shake. I turned the phone over, set it on the counter, and whispered to myself, "Okay." The quiet in the house was heavier than grief. I walked into Lily's room. She was asleep, her hair a mess, her cheeks still pink from the day. I knelt beside her and kissed her forehead. "You're everything," I whispered. "Even if they can't see it." Back in the kitchen, I looked at the clock. It was 9:07 p.m. The time when I usually checked the week's payments. My thumb hovered over the banking app, but I stopped myself. This time it was different. I poured the leftover lemonade down the sink, wiped the counter clean, and stood there in the stillness. I knew that after tonight, something in me was about to change forever. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat at the kitchen table, replaying Dad's words over and over in my head. They were like a knife, cutting deep with every syllable. I looked at my reflection on the dark phone screen, my hair messy, my eyes swollen. I barely recognized myself. I reached for the phone and opened the banking app. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through the list of recurring payments: rent, groceries, utilities, insurance. Each one had my name beside theirs. I stared at the list for a long time, and then I started deleting. One by one, like cutting the strings of a puppet. Click, cancel, confirm. With each tap, my heartbeat steadied. The trembling in my hands eased. By the time I reached the last line, the automatic transfer of $700 every Monday, I felt strangely calm. I deleted it, and just like that, 8 months of my habit vanished. Then, 40 minutes later, the text came. "Mom asking for dinner." I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering. I could have written a scathing reply, a goodbye, but I didn't. I locked the phone and slid it face down. I walked back to Lily's room. She was curled up, her small hand clutching her stuffed teddy bear, which she'd named Joy. I sat on the edge of her bed and brushed a strand of hair from her forehead. "Never again," I whispered, not to her, but to myself. The next morning, the sun shone through the kitchen window, but it was a false calm. The phone rang. It was Richard, my parents' landlord. "Miss Hazel, the rent didn't come through." "It's unlike you," he said. I took a deep breath. "It's not my responsibility anymore. They'll have to handle it." Richard hesitated. "They told me you manage their payments." "I used to," I said, my voice flat and steady. "Not anymore." At 10 a.m., my brother Owen called. "Hazel, Mom says you've lost your mind." I laughed softly. "Define lost." "She says you're cutting them off," he said. "I am," I replied. There was a long pause on the other end. "Good. I'm done, too," Owen said. I was shocked. "You've been sending them money?" I whispered. He admitted that he'd been sending a few $100s a month for groceries and other small things. "I thought if we both helped, they'd change." "They never told me," I said. "They never told me about you either," he replied. "I guess we were both paying for their pride." Before I could say more, a notification lit up my phone. It was a Facebook tag, a live stream replay titled "The Truth About Our Daughter." My stomach turned. "Don't watch it," Owen said quickly, but I already had. The thumbnail showed Mom clutching a tissue, looking like a tragic actress. Dad was sitting beside her, his arms crossed. Mom sniffled. "We've always supported Hazel through everything, but she's been spreading lies about us, saying we're monsters who won't see her child. It's all untrue." Dad leaned closer to the camera. "She's been forcing money on us for years. She needs help." I watched, numb, until the moment I knew was coming. Dad held up a printed photo of Lily, smiling in her birthday dress, and said the same words again, this time to the world. "This child does not exist to us." I froze. The sound of Lily's laughter, her little hands clapping at the candles, played in my head like a broken record. I closed the video, unable to watch anymore. Within an hour, messages flooded in. Some were sympathetic, some were judgmental. "Who says that about a 5-year-old? She probably deserves it." I turned my phone off. The house felt so quiet, as if even the air was holding its breath. Owen texted me later that afternoon. "Don't post anything. Let them choke on their own words." I followed his advice. I was learning that silence could be louder than rage. By the evening, the video had spread like wildfire through our small town. Their church friends shared it with prayer, hand emojis, and others commented, "What kind of grandparents say that?" The next morning, Richard texted again. "They've been told to vacate in 30 days. I'm sorry it came to this." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. For once, justice was swift. 2 days later, my cousin Mia called, her voice shaking with anger. "They're at the family reunion. Can you believe it?" I frowned. "They weren't invited. They showed up anyway, trying to get sympathy," Mia said. "I'm done pretending. You might want to check Facebook later." An hour later, I did. There was a grainy video from someone's phone. It was a sunny backyard with picnic tables and plastic cups. My parents were in the middle, Mom pleading with a circle of relatives. "No matter what Hazel's told you, we love her, and that poor child is just confused." Mia's voice cut in, sharp and clear. "Before or after you said her kid doesn't exist?" The camera turned to her, and she held up her phone, playing Dad's voice loud and clear. "Your child means nothing to us." There were gasps all around. Mom froze mid-sentence, and Dad's face went pale. The whole yard fell silent, except for the distant sound of a lawnmower. Then Uncle Henry stood up slowly. "If that's how you treat your granddaughter, you don't belong here." No one argued, and they left without a word, their heads down. I watched the clip 3 times, and then I set the phone down and let out a quiet, shaking laugh. It was a laugh of release, not of cruelty. Owen called that evening. "You saw it?" he asked. "I did," I replied. "They humiliated themselves," he said. "Finally," I said softly. "And I didn't have to do a thing." "Sometimes the truth takes care of itself," he murmured. That night, I sat by Lily's bed as she slept, her hand wrapped around Joy. For the first time in months, my chest didn't ache. I thought about all the Monday mornings I'd wasted, trying to buy love that was never there. I opened my laptop to check the payment history. 8 months of transfers, line after line of completed transactions. I scrolled to the end and whispered, "Not anymore." The next morning, the headlines in our small town Facebook group were brutal. Church couple exposed for disowning grandchild. Someone had clipped the 2 videos together, and the comments were merciless. Hypocrisy at its finest. You can't erase your own blood. By noon, the church had deleted my parents' photos from their website, and the landlord had changed the locks. Their supporters went quiet. I didn't post anything, and I didn't celebrate. I just took Lily to the park. She drew stars on the sidewalk and said, "Mommy, this one's for Uncle Owen." The air smelled like rain and chalk dust. Her laughter was so pure, it almost hurt. When we got home, there was an envelope in the mailbox. It was from Aunt Clara. Inside was a note that said, "They chose pride over love. You chose your child. That's what family is supposed to be." I folded the note and put it in a drawer. Some victories don't need applause. That night, as I tucked Lily into bed, she yawned. Mommy, can Grandma and Grandpa come next year? I hesitated.
No, baby.
They won't be coming anymore. She nodded, thoughtful. That's okay. We can invite Uncle Owen instead. I smiled and brushed the hair from her cheek. Yes, sweetheart. That sounds perfect. As I turned off the light, the room was quiet, but it was a peaceful quiet. It was earned. The following week, the world seemed to exhale. The constant pings and messages faded into a dull hum. My parents had disappeared from social media, their profiles wiped clean. Their church released a statement about family healing, but everyone knew what it really meant. I didn't feel victorious. I felt free. The kind of freedom that lets you sit in the morning sunlight and just breathe. Lily was humming at the breakfast table, spreading jelly on her toast, completely unaware of the storm that had passed. Owen stopped by that weekend with groceries and a big smile. You look lighter, he said. Maybe I am, I replied. We drove to Aunt Clara's for Sunday lunch. The lemon pie was cooling on the counter, and sunlight was pouring through the lace curtains. She hugged Lily first, then me. Peace suits you, Hazel, she said. Over lunch, she talked about boundaries, about how love without respect isn't love at all. I listened, really listened, and for the first time, I believed it. Later, while Lily colored at the table, Aunt Clara slipped an envelope into my hand. For when you forget why you stopped. Inside was a single line. Kindness with boundaries is strength. That night, as I watched Lily sleep, I realized that the silence in our home was no longer a punishment. It was a protection. Standing by Lily's door, watching her chest rise and fall in the soft glow of the night light, I knew that I didn't have to dread tomorrow. I didn't owe anyone peace, but us. My parents had chosen pride. I chose freedom. And that choice, quiet, steady, final, was the loudest revenge I could ever have given. If you've ever had to walk away to protect your peace, you're not alone. Share your story below, and don't forget to subscribe for the next one.